And we're going to start. I'm going to ask the folks from Acrisure to introduce themselves again, and they're going to take the bulk of the time today to explain this exciting program to everyone. And as you all heard, this is being recorded. It'll be made available to folks afterwards, along with some written information. Take it away.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Kathy. I'll start off. My name is Tyler Vartnigan. I happen to be a partner slash client advisor for Acrisure. I've been in the business now for close to 40 years. We've seen a lot of changes in the healthcare space, and I think what my partner Tony and I have been able to do is to come up with a different approach to try to solve some of the issues revolving around healthcare. So I'll turn it over to my partner Tony, who can introduce himself, give him a little background.
Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, we're glad to be here today. We put a lot of time and energy into putting this program together, realizing that nonprofits who do some tremendous work in the community have long been struggling with the cost of healthcare, and we were able to come up with a partner that would work with us to help us to put together a very, very large group plan, even bigger than the group that we have here, for economies of scale and to put together a very strong program with good benefits as well.
Okay, Kim, would you like to give another little intro?
Thank you, Tyler. No, I'm all set, but it's very exciting to hear what you two have to share with us all.
All righty. Looks like we're ready to go. So let me just see if I can move the.
And as just as you begin to speak, I'm going to let others know if you have questions, put them in the chat. And after we've gotten to some point, we'll open the questions and address them.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So today we're going to talk about an initiative that we started actually sometime last year that we are calling the Commonwealth Benefits Collaborative. So let me take you through a quick agenda so we can stay on track today. Our agenda, briefly, who we are, so you'll understand a little bit about our background, the objectives of the collaborative, the partner that we're working with in order to bring this exciting concept to light. We'll talk a little bit about our key benefits that we're bringing to the table, what we'll need from you to continue on the process. We'll then talk a little bit about the actual underwriting process, important information, and then next steps and timeline. So a little bit about who we are. Acrisure is a client-focused, technology-driven company, and we're a top 10 brokerage firm from what the last report was. So long story short, we have over 17,000 employees located in 22 countries and 24 locations throughout the New England area. Our focus is property and casualty, personal lines, and employee benefits. And as you can see by the last bullet, Tony and I have a combined experience level of over 60 years in the business. So there's a lot of stuff that we've seen over the years. And obviously, we know a lot of ways that you should and shouldn't access healthcare. So when Tony and I got together about a year and a half ago, we said, look, what is the best way for us to be able to try to approach the nonprofit sector? Because quite frankly, we know that finances can be a little bit tight and healthcare costs are not getting any cheaper. So we started out with a bunch of different objectives. We wanted to make sure that we could have greater affordability and accessibility. We wanted the ability to attract and retain some of the best talent by a product offering. We wanted more predictability with annual renewals, which obviously will help us going forward in terms of budgeting. We wanted more choice with plan offerings and designs. We also are looking for easier administration of the program and professionally managed benefits with a large group benefit feel. So with that being said, our key benefits are affordable premiums through a group purchasing model, extensive and flexible coverage options, rate stability, simplified enrollment, billing, and service platforms, communication and compliance, focused service teams to service the business, and a concentration of medical first and then looking toward other ancillary lines as we get the ball rolling. So right now, while we're focusing on the medical, there are other future considerations. These will include health and wellness programs and other voluntary benefits, which will include but not be limited to what you see on the screen. We know that critical illness, accident, and hospital indemnity have becoming a lot more popular, but we also want to make sure that we fulfill the needs for any kind of dental, short and long-term disability, vision, life and AD&D insurance, and pet insurance. So let's talk a little bit about the partner that we've engaged. Our partner is Creative Benefit Consultants and Triad Benefits LLC. Now, Creative Benefits is a distribution channel for innovative, self-funded programs with a major focus on small to mid-size employer groups. Their focus is implementing comprehensive health plans designed for small groups. The key feature is they have a suite of ACA-compliant plans already built on a proprietary structure that's going to allow small groups the buying power of a large group. So our partner is operating under something called an insurance captive. Now, I'm not going to try to give you a real deep dive into what a captive is, but in short, it's a group of companies created and that wholly owns and licensed insurance entity. So in other words, you're joining a bunch of other organizations already sharing in the overall experience. Now, we've picked a captive model for a couple of reasons. First of all, the tailorization of the different products we're able to offer. There's going to be 5 different copay options that you can choose from, and 3 high deductible health plans or HSA compatible plans. Next, in terms of profit retention, profits that are made from any of the companies are reinvested to keep future premiums in check. There are also some tax benefits. So the whole goal of this initiative is to secure a commitment to join the CBC from a significant number of nonprofit and not-for-profit organizations for the purpose of obtaining cost-effective and comprehensive health coverage. Another way to think of it is we're trying to gather all, or as many as we can, organizations that can come together, and the larger the group that we have, the better the underwriting will be and the pricing will be. So in order to achieve this, we're hoping to get information from you. What we would need, first of all, is a complete census for the medical. So this would include simply the first and last names of any employee in your organization that would be benefit eligible. So if you have someone who's maybe working 5 or 10 hours a week, they would not be eligible for the coverage. However, if they're working full time, they would be considered benefit eligible. We would also need to have their first and last names, their dates of birth, and the gender for all dependents to be covered. We would also need their home zip code. We would also need to get your current carrier and your current plan designs. We'd also need a current bill listing employees that are covered currently under your program with their associated premiums. And we're looking to obtain this information no later than September 1st of 2026. So we realize that we've had questions about this in the past about protected health information, and we acknowledge that. There are a number of ways that we can get the information from you to us, and that would include sending it on a secured socket line. We can then obtain the information in paper copy. We could also get a truncated census that would just give an identifier. So it might look like employee number 23, date of birth, gender, and then we would be able to get from you at a later date that actual legend that would allow us to then say what these individual people's names are. So the underwriting process is going to be a little bit different from what you've understood. A lot of you right now get your insurance from the private sector. So you may have Blue Cross Blue Shield, you may have United Healthcare, you may happen to have Health New England or a myriad of other carriers. The underwriting process is going to be very similar. We're going to be gathering all the different census information and then sending it in the aggregate over to the underwriters from the CBC. Annual premiums will then be generated and offered to all participating organizations, regardless of size and employees. This is a big difference from what you're currently experiencing in the private marketplace. So, in other words, we're putting all the groups together and you're sharing in what your overall risk pool would be. I know this is getting into some terminology here, but follow what we're trying to do. By having a number of organizations come into the pool, we're going to be getting hopefully actually some preferential type of pricing that all of you will share. So whether you have 3 people in your company or 30 people in your company, each of you will have exactly the same rating structure and the same plan designs to be offered. Now, the nice thing about this is that each organization that joins doesn't have to pick the same plans as other organizations. If organization one wants to offer one high deductible health plan and that's it, that's all they have to offer. If another organization wants 3 copay plans, they can do that as well. So, as I mentioned in the next point here, all groups who join the collaborative will join individually and be able to select their own plans from the 8 that are being offered. However, and this is a very big point we want to stress, if the final participation of those who initially expressed interest in the collaborative falls below reasonable expectations, the collaborative coverage will not be able to be offered. Our target right now is to be able to get at least 200 people that would be able to join the collaborative. So right now we're taking a look, excuse me. Sorry about that, folks. So right now, if we are looking at least getting 200 employees involved, and we happen to have, let's say, only 30 or 40 that ended up taking it, that changes the underwriting dynamics. And at that point, CBC may decide that they don't want to go or pursue an offering. So it's important to know that we are still in the exploration phase. We're looking to see who may be interested in taking the next step to provide information for underwriting. Final commitment to join the collaborative would be approximately 90 days before the effective date of the coverage. The anticipated initial start date of this program is January 1st of 2027. We're also looking at future additional start dates of April 1st, July 1st, and October 1st. We will also try to look at creating some different stability in administration. And by that, we mean there's not going to be any kind of forced amount of time that you'd have to be in the collaborative. So if after a year of being in the collaborative, you decide that this is not right for you, you can then leave the collaborative with no penalties. But when we talk about stability in administration, the rules and bylaws and things like that, what we're really trying to focus on is we'd like to be able to keep people abreast of how we're doing from a claim standpoint. So our anticipated thoughts here are we'd like to be able to have either quarterly or semi-annual meetings to let people know how the collaborative is actually doing. And at that point, to be able to provide some additional support if people need additional support with any kind of issues, problems, or concerns. So Tony and our staff are going to be, putting together a team that's going to be able to address any concerns that you might have going forward. So there's not going to be what would call any kind of like an administrative body per se. This is just the team that's going to be servicing the overall business. So our next steps and timeline, we want to obtain the census information and other data by September 1st. We're going to submit it to CBC Triad for their review and underwriting. We're going to reconvene in mid-September to present our findings. We'll then receive hopeful commitments from interested parties to join the Commonwealth Benefits Collaborative. We're going to outline all the benefits and communications, enrollment procedures, etc., at that time. The planned effective date, as we mentioned earlier, is January 1st of 2027, and outline all the ongoing collaborative initiatives, including additional benefits, administration, and any kind of performance and communication that will be obviously provided by our organization. So, very simply, if you're interested in taking a look at potentially seeing what the rates and plan designs would be, and want to take that next step of providing us with a census, all you need to do is to then fill out the census, which I believe we're going to talk about in a little bit. So you can then send it to either Tony or my attention, and from there, we'll be able to then gather the information and get it over to our underwriters to see if we can get some real competitive rates. So at this point, I'm going to take a breath and hopefully open it up to some Q&A. And at this point, Kathy, I'm not sure if you can unmute folks, but if people have questions or want to put it in the chat, more than
Yep.
happy to take those questions now.
So the first question I'm going to ask you to answer is from Tavia, and it is, what if our open enrollment dates are different dates than you have listed?
Great first question. So right now, we realize that people have different anniversary dates during the course of the year. If you realize that, this might not be the best time for you to be going into the collaborative because maybe you're only halfway through the plan year, not to worry. We are looking at other potential effective dates for April, July, and October 1st. However, depending on when you actually have renewed your coverage or are looking to renew your coverage, we can talk with you on an individual basis to help you kind of work through, is this a move that you'd be willing to take now, or is this something that you may have to table for a future start date?
Tyler, can I add something to
Yeah,
that?
I was
Sure.
just going to add too.
Oh, okay. I don't know, Kim, I don't know if you let me just take that up for
Yeah.
a moment. So,
Yeah.
this is Samantha Anderson speaking. I don't know if everybody can see me on the screen. As I said, I'm the executive director of the Nonprofit Center of the Berkshires, and to address that issue of the potential of redundant premiums that employees would be paying if their start date does not begin on January 1st. The Nonprofit Center of the Berkshires has just received notification that an earmark has been passed by the State House of Representatives, and that earmark, once it's approved by the Senate, which it's fully expected to, because this was a overwhelmingly bipartisan supported vote in the House, and probably will also be in the Senate. It just needs to be signed by the governor, and that will help subsidize some of these, redundancies or duplicate premiums that some employees might face if they have a start date that is not Jan 1. So, Kim, is there anything else that you want to share about that?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, it's not the premiums. So the intention of this earmark that Samantha is referencing is to help offset any deductibles or
Oh, right, sorry.
co-payments that's okay, that may have been paid in that term before we start the January 1 date. So this is amazing. 100,000 is going to be a lot to help us get through that. So I think that kind of helps that differential of anniversary dates. The other thing I just wanted to talk about, even though it appears we might have some other offerings of dates to join, I highly encourage, if we want this to work, if we want this to move forward, we need a lot of you to join January 1, because that's the real date that's going to make the difference. That's when we need the 200 lives. So just want you to think about that. And I'm happy, and I'm sure Tyler and Tony are, to talk more about that different anniversary date, as well as this earmark that Samantha brought up. But I think we found a way to bridge that situation.
Great. Okay, so then we have a quick question. Is there a maximum number of employees to participate?
Maximum? No
Yeah.
maximum.
That's what I
In
thought.
fact, in our world, size matters. So the more people that join, the better the rating structure will be, because there's more people to spread the risk out.
Okay.
So obviously we're looking at 200 as a minimum, but if we got 300, 400, 500 lives through a number of different organizations, fantastic. We'd welcome that.
Okay, and then the same person asks, would this be something we can work on with our current brokers?
Not at this time.
Yeah.
This is a situation where Acrisure has actually approached Creative Benefits. That could be something down the road that might be accessible. But our whole journey right now is to get this initiative off the ground as of January 1st. So it might be something down the road, but not at this time.
Okay, and then I'm going to slightly reword Stephanie's question. Who would be the benefits broker to help with open enrollment and overview for employees or specific plan questions?
Yeah, that would be Acrisure.
Mhm.
And Tony and my team will be available to assist all of the different groups. If you remember, I had made a mention that each group or organization will be joining individually. So we will take each individual organization's, issues, problems, concerns, enrollment, processing, etc., on an individual basis. So we have a team already in place. We're ready to go. It's just a matter of us, connecting with the people at each of the organizations.
And then Carrie asks, he or she says, I believe 90 days before January 1st would be September 1st. Are we required to commit before we get the information back from the underwriters? The answer is
Well,
no, but I'll let you all explain that a little better.
Right. So September 1st, or the month of September, is really our opportunity to get the pricing done, come back sometime in mid-September to meet with the groups who have expressed interest, to then reveal what the premiums would be, go through in a lot more detail what each of the actual plans summaries would look like, and then be able to see if at that point employer groups would decide, yes, we want to continue on and we are in for a September 1st start. For those groups who may not renew until January 1st, many of you will not begin that re-enrollment process or that renewal process till probably about 60 days out, which would be around November 1st. So we understand that. And if you are currently working with a broker, if you want to continue on, obviously, with that relationship, if they're going to check the market. But right now, we would be the ones at Acrisure to then bring this particular initiative to your organization.
Great. So Adriana Pappett says, we have union and non-union staff currently receiving insurance benefits through the union for all staff. How will this work with your program?
Well, generally speaking, usually union organizations happen to have their own negotiated types of benefits. We clearly would, if they would like to join, we're completely fine with that. But having insured a number of municipal entities, I do know that due to union contracts, there are certain things that they require. And I'm not sure if our program would meet some of those requirements. But again, it's completely open. As long as they are employees of the nonprofit organization, they are welcome to join or enroll.
So my guess is that could be, you might say you're interested in stage 1, which is the tentatively interested stage. But then when you get all the details back from stage 2, you might decide it might not work for you. There's a first date is, yeah, we're really interested. The second date is, yes, we commit. So
Kathy, is it possible for you to take that slide down so I can share my screen real quick and show folks what the census looks like? Because
yeah,
there's a lot of
yes, but hold off on that if you will.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm
get
happy
through these
to.
next couple of questions.
Kathy, can I just jump in? Because
Go
can I
ahead.
just piggyback what you just said? I want to stress what Kathy just said, that September 1 doesn't mean you're buying in, but we need your data. I plead for you to send your census in, which we're going to show in a little bit here, because that's what we need in order to take to Creative Benefits and get the rates and the plans put together for you to view. And that's why I just urge everybody, if you can participate, if you want this to even have a chance to work, we need that participation.
Great. So I'm going to ask
Kathy.
you, we'll have you share your screen with the second question I'm going to read, Samantha. So the next question, we had the max question. Here's the min question. Our organization has only 2 employees on benefits. Would we be able to participate?
Correct.
And
Yep.
and if it's a sole employee?
As long as there's an organization,
Yep.
if this was someone coming off the street, we obviously would not be able to do
But
anything. But if they have an organization, they're going to be included.
okay. So Samantha, Sam, why don't you share your screen? Carrie asks,
Okay, so
is it
just a
200?
lot of people are like, what is this census and how much information do we
Yep.
need to provide? And so this is essentially what it will look like. We're still playing around with some of the questions on it, but there will be a first page as an instruction page. And there will be a way to click this link and go to a secure Dropbox folder where you will have your file, which is named with your organization, and uploaded onto that Dropbox, and so that nobody can see it. And other than Acrisure, you'll upload the document, and then this is what it actually looks like. So, the words test, test, test are here. You're going to put your organization name. You're going to put your name, you'll put your email, and then your phone number, and then you'll just be listing first name, last name, date of birth, home zip code, and whether you are or that particular individual is a male, female, or non-binary. Um, Lastly, you're going to be indicating whether that individual is an employee, a partner, spouse, or child. So those are the basic questions. It's very simple. It's a fillable form, meaning I'm filling it out right now. And I know it's due on September 1st, and some people are concerned that we're heading into vacation time and so forth. But I was able to pull this up on my cell phone this morning and actually complete it on my phone. So you can be sitting by the pool or on Cape Cod, enjoying your holiday and filling the census out. So I'm going to stop sharing, but if anybody has questions about the census, then please, by all means.
Okay, so I'm going to keep up with the questions we've got so far. Carrie also asks, is it 200 employees or 200 individuals, including dependents?
Another good question. It's going to be actual subscribers. So a subscriber is the actual employee. They may have other dependents, which we would call members. So we're looking at 200 subscribers who may have, let's say, two or three people in their family. So ultimately, it may end up being, 3, 4, 500 actual bodies, but it's the subscribers that we're looking for.
Okay. Our next question is about the dates. And I'm going to tell you that we're going to share a document with you after this that has all the key dates. And the dates when you take action, I've put in green. So those are the you take action, and the other dates are when we get information or when other actions are taken. So the question is, what's the commitment requirement date again? What is the date when we'll know the premiums and we are able to back out if the premiums are not favorable?
So to recap, September 1st is our deadline to be able to say, hey, we're willing to put our finger into the water and say, we'd like to see a little bit more. By mid-September, we're thinking 13th, 14th, 15th-ish, we want to get back together, having obtained all of the underwriting and the actual rates, and get together with the same group that we have here and say, hey, this is what we were able to pull together. Now, at that point, we've got a couple of other weeks to be able to say, does this work for us? Does this not work for us? If it does work for us, then we hope that by October 1st, we would be getting those firm commitments. And at that point, Tony, myself, and our team would then be reaching out to each of these organizations individually to sit down and talk with them about which plan selections they would like, take a look at whatever administrative information we need to complete, and then hold an open enrollment meeting, whether it be virtual or on site if there's a possibility to do that. And then from there, your effective date would be January 1st.
Okay. So our next question is about the Cigna, really. What plans are you expecting to be able to offer? Will it include Mass General, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Harvard, Atrius?
Okay. So Cigna is going to be the actual network of doctors and hospitals that we'll be using. And Tony, maybe you might want to pipe in here about the Cigna network. But long story short, they would be the actual organization that would be providing the providers, hospitals, et cetera. Tony, maybe you can fill in some blanks there.
Sure. Being familiar with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts and Harvard Pilgrim, Tufts, Mass General, Brigham, all the standard carriers that people are accustomed to in Massachusetts. Cigna primarily covers every one of those doctors and is a nationwide plan, so it covers all the hospitals. Every hospital is covered through Cigna, and it even covers the vast majority of them throughout the country. So it's a national network, being even larger than any of the Mass Generals or Tufts or Targets, Tufts or Harvard Pilgrims. So the network shouldn't be an issue, or would be the hospitals, as they're all covered. And it also is one thing that's of interest, because I know working in Massachusetts for many years, most people are centered around a HMO type of plan where you need a referral. This plan, there's no referrals needed, and it has an out of network as well, for that matter.
So, Susan Diller, I hope this clarified for you about the start date. The plan will start on January 1st. September 1st is the deadline for us to, if you want to participate in the future, you have to share your information by September 1st. And we encourage you to do so, even if you're not sure you're going to do it. The next question is, if we don't join this year, will we have the opportunity to join next year?
Absolutely. But remember, as Kim outlined, we got to get it started first. If we don't get it started now, um, you know, we could try again next year, but the information and the requirements won't change from what we're trying to do this year. We still would need to have commitments, census information, and be able to develop some sort of an aggregated rate structure that people would be able to use for the 8 plans that are being offered.
And then Elena asks, if an organization doesn't currently offer benefits, should they still participate in the census if they're thinking about it?
Sure, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Next question is, we all provide, I'm sorry to VYOWELL, I don't know how to pronounce your name. The rate question, we all provide the census and we get the plans. What happens if a lot of people drop out? Will our plans then change again, or is it guaranteed once provided?
So we need to have a critical mass to start. If, for instance, we started out with 200 actual subscribers, and by January 1st, they only have, let's say, 30. The underwriter is going to say, wait a minute, we were looking at 200 and now it's down to 30. The dynamics have changed. They would reserve the right to either increase the rates or not offer them altogether. So that's why getting the commitments at a certain point in time, which we're looking for October 1st, will allow us plenty of time to say to folks, we know you are interested. However, if you currently are offering benefits and still working with your current broker, you'll probably have to continue down that road.
Okay.
So again, we're trying to give people as much time as possible to be able to evaluate, look, and then make a determination if this is going to be right for them.
Okay. And Susan, I'm going to state your question as a fact, and Tyler can back me up. Yes, the census is due by September 1st. Mid-September, there will be a presentation of the plans and the prices, and there should be 8 plans, which will be based on the census that everyone has supplied. The start date of the plan will be January 1st if the organization decides it wants to move forward.
All correct.
Okay, and then Adria asks, does this mean we should also share potential spouses that might be interested and dependents in the census?
Yes. So that's another good question. If you have people that are just newly joined to the organization and may or potentially not join the health insurance program, we would need to have them underwritten. And the reason being is that if people are going to join but haven't been evaluated, it may change the dynamics of the underwriting. Now, obviously, the more people we have, if someone comes in at the last minute, we realize those will be a little bit of game time changes, but it will not impact the actual rating structure. So if you have somebody that's new to the organization or is thinking about adding a spouse or any dependent children, we ask that you include those at this time as well.
Swanee asks, will it have coverage for FSA or HSA?
So there will be HSA compatible plans that are offered. What we've typically done here at Acrisure is that instead of going to just one organization that would provide the health savings accounts, we usually encourage people who have a banking arrangement with a local bank to see if that bank does indeed happen to have an HSA product that they can purchase. If, however, they do not, we do have some organizations that we work with that would be able to provide HSA banking information in an actual account that they could join. In terms of FSA, that's a flexible spending account. That is something that is kind of on a back burner. Our organization does have the facility to offer and implement an FSA if that's something that the individual group would like, but it's not part of the overall package that we're putting together here. That would be something different that we can offer depending on what their specific needs would be.
And one thing to note, if you already have a vendor that you're using, there's HR Total Solutions is a big one in Massachusetts. You're free to use them too. You don't have to use any FSA that we provide. You can continue to work with your local people to help administer the FSA as well as an HRA. No one mentioned that, but I'll throw that in there because a lot of people use an HRA wrapped in. So this is totally compatible with either of those. You can use us to help you with it or continue with your same people, no problem.
Okay. There's a follow-on question to a question that was previously asked about working with their current broker because they have STD, LTD, vision, and dental. Do we have a plan for that, or is this just medical? And how does this interact with their current broker, the setup they have with their current broker?
So for the time being, we're looking at getting the medical launched and off the ground because that's going to be the most difficult product to be able to get going. If they happen to have currently short-term, long-term disability or any other different types of benefits, they can continue on with their current broker relationship. Our organization is in the process of evaluating because the same individuals who currently are going to be joining are going to be the same people that we would then go out to our carrier partners to see if we might be able to get more preferential rates and plan designs for those other lines of coverage. So the short answer is you can continue to work with your broker on those other lines. We won't have any kind of ancillary lines of products for the January 1st start date, only the medical.
Carrie asks about the degree of urgency to get other nonprofits signing up. This was started in the Berkshires. They have a lot of interest already out in the Berkshires. The Mass Council of Nonprofits held a workshop last month on this. There'll probably be some more things lined up in terms of talking to people about it. And we're creating a lot of written materials that you can share with people, which will include a link for the census. And the folks from Acrisure will be happy to talk to other organizations. So, and Samantha answered this. This is the third one, and they're going to offer office hours all summer. So there'll be a follow-on email to all of you on this call with all of this information. And look at this. Samantha is putting together a web page. I didn't even know about this. With the census, the FAQ, I have a one-page explainer, recordings of all the previous webinars and so forth. Okay, so Carrie asks, and I've been reading these so that we can go faster and cover more topics, not to quash your voices, by the way. Carrie asks, our organization doesn't currently offer health insurance coverage. We offer a health insurance reimbursement each month for each employee. This would be new for our organization. Could we still participate? The census seems like it requires information that doesn't exist for us regarding current carrier plan, etc.
So it sounds to me that they either have a QSERA or an ICRA currently in
No,
place.
a lot of people do none of the above. That would be great. And I'm always happy to work with people to understand how to implement that. A lot of people they have to pay tax on their reimbursements. They just get a reimbursement.
Right. So if you happen to have one of these types of situations in place, it does not it doesn't affect what you're currently doing to explore this option on a group basis rather than looking at an individual option. So for those people who would like to still explore this, all we would need to have is that census information completed. And, again, there's not a big lift in terms of what we need for information, but we do happen to need some of the information that we showed you on that nice census that Sam put together.
And I would add that I'm always happy to talk to people about the Q Sahara and the ICRAs. They are very good options if you're not offering that much money-wise for people, but you want your folks to be able to have that benefit tax-free. Okay.
Kathy, I would just want to make sure
Yeah.
that answer was clear. So if the organization does not offer benefits in the traditional sense, they just should leave those questions about the carrier blank, correct? And then just fill in the information about the people.
Correct.
Okay,
Wait,
thank you.
there is no question about carrier as far as I know on the census that I shared with all of you.
Correct.
That's right, Sam.
Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Tyler.
So,
That would
so
just
I
be
just,
if-
I, yeah,
Go ahead.
I just want to really, really emphasize this. The census that is due on September 1st only asks for name, first, last, birth date, gender, and whether you are that individual is an employee, spouse, partner, or child. That is it. And what I wrote into the chat is that I am employed by the Nonprofit Center of the Berkshires. We do not have health insurance. I'm on the Health Connector, Massachusetts Health Connector, and I get reimbursed. So I am exactly like whomever just asked Carrie, who asked that question. I'll be filling out the census with all that information, and so forth. So I just want to really make that very clear for everybody.
So
Thanks.
I
Yeah, it
do
was a
want
little
to.
confusing because the question about carriers was listed in that
Yeah,
list.
I do want to address that. Part of the reason why we have that in our presentation is that from an evaluation standpoint, understanding what you have and where you are currently from a financial standpoint helps us to evaluate, is this a good move for you? So while we don't need that for the initial underwriting, it's going to be helpful for Tony and I when we go out and talk with the individual organizations to say, okay, if this is your price point and this is the plan that you're in, we may not be a right fit. And we're not trying to coerce people to do this, but by the same token, information is king. We'll be able to then say what you have is a good program, or our program can compete very favorably with this. Ultimately, it's still your decision. But without that additional information, we don't know, for those of you who have group plans, whether our program is going to be beneficial to you or not.
Okay. So I apologize. I left Tyler pinned for that whole time and I shouldn't have done that. So now you can see, everybody can see everybody. I want to make sure we're getting close to time to close up. Are there any other questions? You're free to raise your hand at this point. Susan Diller, unmute yourself and ask.
So our anniversary date is September 1st. So if we were to do this and then have a new open enrollment for January 1st, if I understand what Kim was talking about earlier, anything that happened in those first few months in which people were getting their deductibles filled or, copays done, that there's an opportunity to get those funds reimbursed for them, so that if we start over in January 1st, they're not sort of doubling up on those kinds of payouts.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
correct.
what the money is earmarked for.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
so far that earmark is just for the Berkshires. Is that correct?
No,
no.
well, to be determined. I don't believe it's going to be, because that's something that Lee Davis, who is District 3 Berkshire's state rep, needs to negotiate with her colleagues in the State House and also in the Senate, but it should be distributed throughout the Commonwealth.
All right. In Cambridge, we will talk to our people about that as well, I'm sure.
Great.
And can I just add, I know we're under time here, but just to add to that, Susan, just to clarify, we're working on how that actual process would work. We believe that the NPC of the Berkshires would administer that payback. But so if somebody used their $300 deductible or spent $300 deductible, they would be eligible in the new year if they had to spend 300 more in the next year. So they wouldn't just automatically get reimbursed for the 300, but if next year they had paid 300 and they need to pay 300, then they would be eligible. Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay, we have time for one or two final questions. This is a lot of complexity, so raise your hand and let me see you.
I don't know how to raise hand. Is that okay?
Just speak.
I
us who
just
you
had a
are.
follow-up for the broker. I just want to be clear. So that you guys are going to essentially be the broker for the medical plan. Would you still be working with our brokers, or would this be like a silo where we just have to deal with you directly and our current brokers would have nothing to do with this and wouldn't be able to assist in any way?
So
That's correct. We would be a silo, right, guys? I mean,
Exactly.
it would be separate. At this point, we don't have any mechanism for a broker to join the medical piece
No.
of this.
Every one of these plans, and this isn't the first one that's been put together. There's Mass Bankers Association, things like that. Any one of these big associations, to get them going, it's a sole entity through the broker. But every single one I've dealt with, and as Tyler mentioned, we've been around a long time, has allowed brokers to come in after the fact. So that would be expected down the road, that they would be allowed to come in and act just like the broker that you have now, just not for the initial date.
Thank you.
One thing that I haven't been able to determine that I would like to know about is the Cigna network. You can't see which doctors are, I couldn't find a way to see which doctors are included unless you're already a member. So if you have a way to surface that information, I think that would be useful for people.
Yeah, and I'll just say, in the Berkshires, for example, Cigna is very is accepted in very limited basis. In fact, I don't think any of the major hospitals accept it. And so that's something that we're going to have to figure out with the local medical community here. So if that's of concern to you folks in Cambridge area, I doubt it, just because it seems like Boston take all the hospitals and doctors take everything there, but it will be a little bit more challenging out here in the western part of the state.
Right. So what I'm looking for is a way to surface which hospitals particularly, and then later which doctors take Cigna.
And remember, one other thing, this is a PPO, so there's a full out-of-network benefit as well. So that pretty much is any doctor that takes medical insurance in the country would be the out-of-network outside of Cigna. So that's always an option as well.
Okay.
Tony, can you just see if you can get a list of providers for Cigna? And then I'd just be very curious. I can't believe Berkshire Healthcare System doesn't accept Cigna. So could you check on that? Samantha saying
Sure,
no,
yeah,
but
we'll get the link to the Find My Doctor
Okay.
link.
I mean,
Thank you.
it just, it's not that I said none of them do. It's just on a more limited basis, especially like CHP and such.
Okay. All right. Do we have a last question? Well, in that case, by the end of the week, I will get everybody the recording and some of the written materials. Samantha is going to put up a web page that includes the census information. Yes, share this with your friends. Cambridge, talk to people you know in Somerville, talk to people you know in Belmont, in Boston. The more the merrier, truly. So I think that this has, as some people say, legs, and this is in my decades of nonprofit work in Massachusetts. This is the first time I've seen something that I think really has the opportunity to provide health insurance for all of our organizations without using a PEO. So I want to thank Samantha and Kim for figuring this out and getting it started, and all the people at Acrisure for working with them. And I look forward to talking to you all about this more. Hi, I hope you found this video enlightening. But if you'd like to learn a little more, or you're ready to sign up, Since you're watching the recording, you can look in the first comment after the captions and find links for more information or to sign up for the census. Thanks, and let's all work together to make this happen. See you soon.